We all play an important role in connecting the dots between our homes, the health of the people that we care for and that live in our homes, and the health of our communities and, the bigger world. Yet we don't connect our health and home. We don't connect our health and the health of the world. We don't connect our homes in the world. And many of the products that make up our homes and how we live in them make us sick, oftentimes without knowing it, and impact our safety and comfort a lot of times. These same products may be creating byproducts that hurt us and our world, as well as there may be this cumulative buildup over time in our bodies from all this stuff. And it builds up not only in our bodies, but in our world. We literally don't know what we don't know. I mean, we're facing many big challenges in our world. Trust me, I know it can be challenging and overwhelming. The fact is, folks, each of us holds the world in our hands, and it is our challenge. Each of us, you, me, you, Tony, we're all responsible for what we bring into our homes, our lives, and this world. I mean, it really does start with us.
Living green or sustainably is about more than saving on your electric bill and doing your part to protect natural resources. It is about a safer and healthier life for you and your family without sacrificing style, quality, or budget. This is a movement to provide all of us with clean air to breathe and water to drink, safe, healthy food to eat, and places to live, and energy to run the places where we live, learn, work, and play. Join your hosts, Marla Esser-Close, the Green Home Coach, and Tony Pratte of the Sound Room to learn how everyday green homes work for you, your family, and your community.
Well, hey, y'all, it's Marla, the Green Home Coach, and in virtual studio today with Tony
Pratte from the Sound Room,
my amazing partner in podcasting and intellectual sparring partner and co-host for this.
I don't know about amazing, but
well, I'm going to say amazing.
I'm okay.
Whatever. So we're actually kicking off a new podcast series inside of the Everyday Green Home Coach podcast. That's just going to be you and me continuing some of these dialogues that we're having. So we've been having this dialogue over the last, I don't know how many episodes, about climate crisis and all of the unintended consequences and the things that we just as a society are having to grapple with. And what came out of that was this, what do we do next? How do we take this? And you had this beautiful word for it that I love, or words, or phrase, of wicked problems. So this is where we're aiming this year for our series, just you and me and our dialoguing. But let's set it up. So from your deep well of knowledge, what is a wicked problem?
Okay, so first off, I didn't come up with the idea.
True.
This is a theory that popped up from one of my MBA classes at Boston University. But wicked problems are problems in a social or cultural issue that are difficult, are very, near impossible to solve. And the reason for that, all wicked problems are deeply complex, they're broad in scope, and they're very large in scale. So when you think about it, the average person has a difficult time wrapping their head around them. Now, there's some certain characteristics that appear in wicked problems. They're all unique. They have multiple uncertain root causes. There's a vast open-ended source of possible solutions. They involve numerous and varied stakeholders, and they can only be improved, but never really solved. And when it gets to solving wicked problems, all solutions involve large-scale changes in behavior, structure, technology, and the solution is likely to create new, novel problems and unintended consequences.
And unintended
That's a wicked problem.
This is kind of like our nickname.
Yeah. that is a wicked problem in a nutshell.
That's a very good description of how I have understood wicked problems. So here's the deal, folks. We got a lot of wicked problems right now in our society and our world. And as you know, we're a lot about, I'll call it in quotes, the green home, the green world, but really all about health and how we create better health for us as individuals and our societies and our bigger home, this big old world, and the people that are in it, most importantly. And that's big right there. And that alone encompasses so many other wicked problems that are likely going to come up over the scope of our conversations. And I know we are barely going to scratch the surface. So,
oh, that's a good way to put it. And, I didn't want to bring this up, but there's even a subcategory of wicked problems called super wicked problems.
I thought you were going to say wicked problems.
No, super wicked problems. And those are characterized by time is running out. There's no one in charge, so no decision maker. And those who are seeking to solve the problem also cause it.
Well, from the statement I just read, we all fit that description.
Oh, yeah.
Because every single one of us is contributing to the problems, wicked problems, and each of us has power to be a part of that solution.
Mm-hmm.
And as you and I often talk about, there are trade-offs for every single thing we do, period.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be one of these big problems we talk about. It's just everyday life.
It is.
Budget, decisions for entertainment. Everyday life is nothing but a trade-off from the time you get up to the time you go to bed. Even then, that's a trade-off.
Right. And I think we have kind of conditioned ourselves not to think, I think we've had to condition ourselves not to think of it in that way because it becomes very heavy. And I posit that thinking about all of these big, wicked problems in the face of so much going on in our world right now is challenging and exciting for some people, but for many of us, it's just too much. And I think that's part of the issue. And I've seen a lot of articles lately, especially with people being concerned about, there's a big emphasis right now on personal health, but not understanding what all impacts personal health.
Mm-hmm.
And how we define that, I think, has kind of changed.
Well, and, the whole personal health debate, that gets into that whole lots of stakeholders and they all have competing viewpoints. And as we're seeing there, once again, we're trying to keep this as neutral of a conversation as possible, but we're getting to the point where the average person is just starting to tune it all out because it's nothing but white noise.
Too much.
Because who do you trust?
Oh, I know. And so for those of you that have been listening to us for a while, you particularly know that I am very big on connectedness. It's a big part of what I am and a big part of what I do. Yet, I think part of the reason I'm such a big connectedness person is because we live in a very disconnected world, which is ironic when we have telecommunications and technology that can literally connect us with anyone. But I'm talking about this connectedness, the kind of connectedness that, we feel inside of us. And society has done, I think, a relatively good job of helping us to separate our feelings from what's actually happening. And we've become somewhat, I think, anesthetized. I can't say that word.
Anesthetized.
That to a lot of things. And so, for instance, take violence, take people dying and, by multiples in many of our action movies and TV shows. And, we all know that's acting. They're going to get up. But how does that contribute to real life crime? A whole bunch of studies about that, right? So anyway, all of this stuff connects. And just so we don't get too far down a rabbit hole, I want to kind of bring it back in to talk about this whole health issue. And one of the things I am seeing, and I've had conversations with a lot of people and reading a lot about this, is how do we help people see this connectedness between all the parts of where we function as human beings and our health? And interestingly enough, COVID's really brought this to a head, because literally talking to a family member for a while there could be potentially bad for your health. And it was for me.
Mhm. Well, COVID kind of changed a lot of things. It changed our appreciation for personal space.
Mm-hmm.
It changed our appreciation for our relationships and our daily routines.
Yeah.
And I think it allowed us to sit back and just forget about everything outside of your home. All that mattered for a lot of people was just what they could control. I can't control this. I'm not going to worry about it. That seemed to be the mentality that took place with a lot of people that I knew.
That's a really interesting observation. And some of the reports that I've read have said how much our things that we've cared about, things that were important to us pre-COVID. So for instance, a couple of the sustainability reports that I track, we're talking before COVID about how much more people were feeling responsibility of companies to actually do what they said they were going to do to help solve some of the worldwide problems with climate change and with waste and with energy. And now that we've all been, 2+ years through this pandemic, every survival mode has become much bigger. We've all moved down on Maslow's hierarchy. And if y'all don't know what I'm talking about, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you start off with basic survival needs, food, water, shelter, and then you move up all the way to the tippy top self-actualization, which you really can only get to when you've gotten the other 5 levels, right? But a lot of us were sitting in, maybe esteem or love, and I can't remember what it is, love and social or friendships. Maybe we were dipping into safety concerns, but now a lot of us got down into just basic physical requirements for a while. And I think it also brought to a head how many people still are in basic physical requirement need, as in the health part of it, it's really just has come front and center.
Well, and I think part of it is, once again, we keep talking about trade-offs.
Yeah.
And with everything that happened during COVID, whether it's, hey, some people didn't even notice what was going on, but some people got really affected by it.
Yeah.
And now with everything going on with the economy and all that, people are being forced into trade-offs of, gee, do I go see the doctor? Do I buy food for the kids? And it's unfortunate. I mean, we all heard the stories of people, during the COVID lockdowns who were going through cancer treatments. They had to stop.
Yeah.
How many people had to stop medical care because of this?
I know.
So how many people's lives will be cut short that really had nothing to do with the virus itself, but it was an unintended consequence of a lockdown?
Yeah.
That's the scary part.
Yeah. So let's kind of bring this conversation specifically to our homes, since that's something we specialize in, is talking about homes. I'm going to actually pick up on a little bit of a conversation that I was writing about that might help us. So if you think about your daily habits, your daily life, and what we each are responsible for bringing into our homes and our lives. So let's kind of think about this whole health and connectedness with that subset, if you will. So if you think of your day, most of the actions that we each take, just like our daily habits, involve our global economy. I mean, you may drink coffee, for instance, and every day you are subject to what is happening in the global economy, because your coffee is probably from Colombia. Your coffee maker is probably made in China. Or if you drive through for coffee, your car, the fuel you use, the coffee cup and the plastic lid are all a part of your coffee habit. And then you add to that we, for years, we're sending our plastic and our waste overseas for developing countries to deal with, oftentimes at extreme health impacts to them. And now all this starts to come back to home. And interestingly enough, during COVID, when we couldn't get so many things, it made us go, okay, what can I get? I was with my sister not too long ago, and we ordered something, and the server's like making apologies for substitutions. And we're like, it's fine. Whatever we get is fine.
Oh, yeah.
And that would have never happened before COVID, because before COVID, we wanted what we wanted and that was that. And now it's like, great, we got a vegetable, or great, we got a meal, or so that probably is good. I don't know how long that'll last, but this whole thing of thinking about our homes in a really different way. And it started with two things, I think. So, and COVID really did kind of bring both of these to a point, is that we were in our home so much. My home office, and any of you guys that watch me, you know what my studio looks like in my home, and Tony's. So, home base, where we used to drop our stuff and touch down and shower and sleep and then leave again, became hometown. It became everything. Mm-hmm. It became our bank. It became our school. It became our work. It became our gym. It became our restaurant. And our whole community came into the functions that we would go out into the community for at least a few months. Everywhere came into our homes. And all of a sudden we started noticing things about our homes, right? Because you were around long enough to see.
Yeah. The more time you spend in your home with nothing else to do, especially if you were one of the people that, companies kind of shut down for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. What am I going to do? You're wandering around your house going, oh, wow. Never noticed that before.
Right.
Why? Because our lives have been so busy. Now all of a sudden you have free time on your hands. So you have free time. You're confined to the same place. You start to notice things.
Yep. And, you're trying to stay healthy in a different environment. And interestingly enough, a lot of us adopted healthier habits during those months that we were kind of locked down, or whatever you want to, I guess we can officially call it a lockdown. But we were walking every day because we had time to. And we were gardening every day because we had time to. And I honestly was probably healthier in 2020 than I'd been in a long time.
Right.
Because I was getting outside, I was walking, I was gardening. We were just, and life kind of moved at a slower pace.
You were connected back to nature, maybe?
I was connected to nature. And that's when I figured out I'm going to keep, because that really impacts my health. So here's the other thing I personally discovered. I don't know if any of you guys had a similar thing. I spent most of my adult life in St. Louis, Missouri. And I moved back to Oklahoma City. I grew up here. So I moved back here about 5-ish years ago. And we ended up purchasing a home on the west side of town, which is prairie lands. There's literally a line that runs north-south through about the center of Oklahoma City. And to the west is the grasslands, the prairie lands. And to the east is a transitionary woodland kind of a topography. You likely wear many hats, like many people and most women I know: mom, wife, daughter, sister, friend, boss. And in our full lives, having a home which works for you rather than against can make a critical difference in day-to-day living. Many women I know are mama bears. We stand up for our families, our friends, and our communities. We want our children, our grandchildren, and future generations to have a good life, a safe and healthy life. As women, we are literally and figuratively the head of household for many, many households. We play an important role in connecting the dots between our homes, our health, and the health of the people we care for, and in our communities. So join me, Marla, the Green Home Coach, for Earth Day, for a micro workshops where we will discover the connection between our homes, our health, and the health of the larger world. You will get to do a Dream Your Home exercise to uncover how you want your home to feel and perform for you and the people who live there. We'll wrap up with discovering a few simple steps to improve well-being through the connection between your home and your health. Find us on Facebook Live, on the Green Home Coach page at 11 a.m. Central Time, Friday, April 22nd, 2022. You can RSVP on the Green Home page, the Facebook page, to get your Dream Your Home worksheet. See you there on Earth Day. So, this whole idea of wicked problem and connecting our health to the world health and how all of this connects, I think it classifies as a wicked problem. But
most definitely.
I mean, yeah, right. So there was this statement that I read that I think really kind of helps us to put it in perspective. And it was by a professor of environmental science and policy at Harvard named John Holdren. And he ran the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy in the Obama administration. And here's what he said. He said, we basically have three choices: mitigation, adaptation, and suffering. We're going to do some of each. The question is what the mix is going to be. The more mitigation we do, the less adaptation will be required and the less suffering there will be. So, yeah, I mean, that plays exactly into what a wicked problem is to me, because it says there's no perfect answer.
Well, and that's always going to be true. When it comes to wicked problems, when you're addressing them, you always have to sit there and really define what does success look like for a wicked problem.
Okay.
And usually when it comes to wicked problems, success becomes improved outcomes,
Okay.
acceptable behavior, and reduced risk, though that risk is never eliminated. And that it kind of ties into what the professor from Harvard was talking about.
Yeah.
When you really think about it, your mitigation, well, that's reducing your risk. I mean, that's anybody that's been in any kind of project management will tell you how do you reduce risk? You mitigate it.
Yep. And we all do that every day without even thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. Your adaptability, that kind of goes hand in hand with acceptable behavior, because you're going to have to change your behaviors to not survive, but thrive in an environment that is dealing with a wicked problem. And then the last bit, suffering. Well, the whole idea of solving a wicked problem or defining the success of a wicked problem is to improve the outcome. So by doing something to improve the outcome, you will have your less suffering. So I think we connected all that.
Yeah. So kind of the basic premise that I believe needs to be accepted for us to individually and collectively begin mitigation so we can reduce adaptation and suffering is seeing that there is this connection. And as much as we all love our personal convenience and our personal priorities, I'm going to get preachy here a minute. I do believe there is great value in putting the common good at least equal with our own personal good. And, sometimes that's hard. But if you look at it this way, so everything you buy or use in your home and your daily life has an impact. And changing what some of those are can be a way of mitigating the health effects on ourselves, in our communities. Every time I say that, I think of Erin Brockovich. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry to talk about it. Woo! But I think the reason it makes me think of Erin Brockovich is because that whole story was about a whole community suffering health effects from a byproduct of a manufacturing process. And you do kind of have to scratch your head and go, no, is this still happening some places? And probably we rely on regulations that might be out of date or might not be adapted to how we actually use products. So I personally have made some big changes in things that I buy. I really have, especially since Scott's health issues have come about. And I was, trained as a younger mom because of my kids' issues. So if, starting to see that improving your own health. So if you choose a product, well, here's an idea. So I'm going to get a little bit away from the house because organic food is kind of something we all seem to understand a little better. So think of organic food kind of like you could have that same kind of a concept and stuff in your house. So organic food is grown differently. The soil's treated differently so that it does not use synthetic chemicals and fertilizers. And it uses more natural processes and more natural, and I'm going to say more natural because there's nothing absolute, fertilizers, pest control, et cetera. And that benefits us because we're eating healthier food. it benefits the farmers and the people working with those foods because they're not having to handle chemicals that might be harmful or other agents that might be an issue. And then it helps the people even upstream that are manufacturing organic or safer or more natural products to be used in that organic farm. So there's no way that anything in our life right now just affects us. And so if you kind of can translate that to our home products, that's exactly the same process that happens just with all the other products that we use in our homes. So there's always multiple parties affected.
Well, I mean, one of the hallmarks of a wicked problem is you have multiple stakeholders and they all have competing views. And this is hard for people. This is extremely hard for people because it gets into the differences of personal beliefs,
rather than the things that bring us together.
Right. So every one of these stakeholders thinks that there's a different root cause to the problem.
Yep.
We all think that there's different implications to the problem. We all have desired outcomes that are different.
Yeah.
We all have a different description of what the problem is, and we all have a different idea of what the scope of the problem is. So this is the part that can tend to overwhelm an individual. And it also can tend to make them want to either stick to the people that think the same way that they do and just not even engage with the others. Or make them all throw up their hands and say, I forget it, there's nothing I can do. But we're both here to tell you that there is something you can do. Whenever you are dealing with these wicked problems, and all we are is one individual person at a time.
Yep.
To succeed in dealing with a wicked problem and defining success and getting to a place where you've adapted, mitigated, and are dealing with a whole lot less suffering.
Right.
Start small.
Yeah, absolutely.
Small wins will breed momentum. And while you cannot change the fact that countries are out there doing whatever they're doing, you can control your actions, regardless of what you think the root cause is, regardless of what you think the implications are, regardless of what your desired outcome is and your description of the problem and your scope of the problem. You can control your own single actions.
Yep. And so in some of my workshops and articles and people getting to learn together, one of the ways, actually, there's 3 ways that I encourage people to get started. And number 1, which I think is really easy, assuming you want to start affecting this whole health and better issue, I'm going to make that assumption. If you're listening to this podcast, you're interested in doing some of this. And if you're not, then maybe you will be after this podcast. Who knows? So at any rate, number one, I'll do my number 1 finger instead of my thumb. Swap out 2 to 3 products that you use every day and find a better product that can come in. Now, better can be classified in a lot of different ways. For me, better meant a healthier product. And how I define that for me was a natural ingredient product or a highly responsible product that I could trace back with transparency, the ingredients, and I am okay with them. And I do work off of a list of chemicals that are known to be harmful. That's on the Environmental Working Group's platform. That's always a good place to start for me. There are others, but that's one that's pretty much a good third-party trusted source. So what kind of products might you swap out? Goodness, there's hundreds.
So many.
So next time you buy a light bulb, you might buy a light bulb that uses less energy because less energy means less carbon and less money for you to spend on that energy.
I just had to swap out a shower head.
Okay, so what did you buy to replace it? Very good. Yep. And a lot of times you can recycle the metal in the stuff that you are getting, taking down, or a lot of places like reuse places will accept a donation and sell it. Although I'm noticing that some of them like Habitat Restore have some parameters on like some of the building products that come in. They want them to at least be a certain level, a standard, like for energy efficiency or water efficiency. I'm not sure of all their rules, but I'm noted, not rules, but what they would prefer to take.
Guidelines.
Guidelines. That's a good word. Guidelines.
Guidelines.
It may be when you choose a flooring product, you choose one that is a labeled low emission product. So it might carry a Green Guard Gold or a Green Seal certification saying, hey, this is not going to continue to emit icky stuff that you shouldn't breathe into your home once you install it. We're actually in the process of looking at some potential new flooring, and that's one of my go-tos is I start with who's got a certification and the kind of product that I want. So there's literally every single thing that we bring into our home may have a different, better option. I think of better in terms of how it affects the health of me, my community, and my world. So that's my litmus test. So that swap, that's one of the easiest things that we all can do is just start swaps. And I literally kind of have a running list of things in my home that as we repair and replace them, we up level them. So I just keep bettering it bit by bit. So number 2 thing you can do is support companies that make products and services that are in line with your values and are making concerted efforts to improve the health of us as people, our communities, and our world. And I have a couple of go-tos that I look for. And you may have some different ones, Tony, but I look for companies. The easiest one is certified B Corporation companies. And these companies have been through a certification process that they support work for good, and they are better for the planet, profit, and people. So that's one. You may also see ESG scores. This is environmental sustainability and governance. And these are used a lot in the investment world, but we're also starting to see people refer to them for just understanding what a company is doing. There is no standards for ESG right now, though. So proceed at your own pace.
Yeah, I know that. And those are great points for if you choose to do business with a large corporation. Myself, I've been working for small local businesses basically my entire working career.
And buying local is a great way.
That is what I do.
Yes.
I love to support local businesses. I like to know who the owner is. If I need something around the house, well, guess what? If it has anything to do with the construction part of the house, typically I have a contact that I know from the trade. So I talk to them because I know who is working on my house. And to me, that is probably the best thing you can do when you're dealing with your own house.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, it's my health that I'm connected to, but I also know that I'm helping to take care of another family who I have a connection with.
And the community. I mean, that's what makes
Exactly
it run is the local business and local economy.
I love keeping the dollars inside the community.
I hear you. And there's so many really cool ways to help support businesses that are really working to do good. Local businesses are oftentimes mesh very tightly with that concept, even if they don't realize it a lot of times they are.
And usually they don't.
Isn't that true? Yeah.
I mean, usually they don't. I mean, look at our company. We have an electronics retail showroom.
Yeah.
We bleed through energy all the time. I mean, our electricity bills are impressive. However, do we talk about the fact we have a 140 panel solar farm on our roof?
Yeah.
No, we don't. As a company, we don't even think about it.
And that's a very responsible thing to do. And I wish
our electricity bills are less in our building now than they were at the building we were at 20 years ago. And this one's bigger.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a big difference. So,
yeah.
So the last thing, this is a perfect segue. The last thing I suggest to people to do is speak up. Talk to people about this stuff. Listen to people. Listen to their viewpoints. And, like you guys, it's okay to talk a little bit and brag a little bit when you're doing good stuff. I find so many times that especially companies that are just been around a long time, that they may not talk about the benefits of their products or practices that they have. They're starting to get wiser because they're realizing people are looking for this information and listening for it, but not enough.
Yeah, but there's a reason for that. There's a fear, especially among small businesses and those owners. There is a fear of, if I say the wrong thing, I've just alienated half my customer base.
And you do have to know who you're talking to. You're right.
It's legitimate. It's out there. We see stories about it every day. Mm-hmm. And while a big corporation, a Disney, a Coca-Cola, whoever, can easily withstand an online boycott, and they can deal with whatever they need to deal with, put in place whatever program they need to put in place to appease the protesters against them, that could be death for a small business.
True.
So I could see why they would. This is
where values, and there's a trade-off. I mean, sometimes your own values compete with each other. So you got to know which one's going to be the most important to you. So this stuff is not necessarily easy to think about, but taking some small action is easy. Yes. And that's where it all starts. And I believe you and I share at least part of this way of thinking, that people taking action is a baby step towards solving many problems, and hopefully some of our wicked problems. But it will take a lot of baby steps that grow into bigger steps.
Well, just remember, on the individual level, success within a wicked problem for an individual means making a difference toward the problem or having an impact on the problem.
There you go.
Doesn't mean solving the problem.
Having an impact on the problem. That is a perfect quote. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So everybody, we can have an impact. Mm-hmm. We don't have to solve it by ourselves. We won't solve it by ourselves. But in the words of Tony's wisdom, we can have an impact.
I'd like to hope we could.
Me too. I always will hope to have hope, because that, and you can see on my back wall, joy, that's my other keyword. I've added grace to my keywords, but hope is important. And knowing that we can have an impact, I believe, is one way to continue to have hope.
Well, that and continuing to have conversations about these issues. When we're scared to have conversations, well, then the wicked problem becomes a super wicked problem. Yeah. It just gets worse and worse and worse. It's as long as we all keep an open mind and understand that everybody's different. We can all have disagreements, but we can also all control our own actions. And it's that control of the action that allow us to have an impact.
I would like to take that thought, and as we close out today's episode, and we hope you all will join us for more wicked problems conversations, but I heard a quote that I think we used in a podcast a few years ago, that I feel that I am responsible for myself and to others. So think about that.
That's a very apropos quote for this conversation.
And with that, we bid you adieu. I think I said that right. I don't speak other languages. Adieu. Have a great day. We hope we've tickled your brain a little bit. And with that, see you later, Tony.
A biento.
That wraps this episode of the Everyday Green Home Podcast. Get the show notes with all the resources mentioned in this episode. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Want more? Join the Love Your Everyday Green Home private Facebook group for more resources and behind-the-scenes insights. And remember that living a little better and greener is easier than you think.